Welcome to the Explainer. So let's just dive right in, because today we're going to completely redefine how you think about wealth. We spend so much of our lives absolutely obsessing over our incomes. We're always chasing that next raise, the next promotion, the bigger paycheck. But have you ever noticed how some people making great money still look utterly exhausted and stressed out, while others seem completely unbothered? Well, today we're going to map out exactly why that happens. We are looking at 3 specific net worth milestones that fundamentally alter human stress, work, and time. And let me tell you, these aren't just arbitrary numbers. Crossing these thresholds quietly rewires your brain and your entire reality.
To really understand these milestones, we first have to confront something we'll call the income illusion.
This right here is the core paradox we're unpacking today. Why is it that high earners can still feel completely trapped in a state of financial panic? We've all been conditioned to measure success by the size of our paycheck, but honestly, income alone is a notoriously terrible predictor of financial peace. To get why this is an illusion, just imagine 2 guys, Jace and Logan. 2 wildly different humans who, on paper, look completely identical. They work the exact same job, at the same company, earning the exact same $90,000 salary. Their paychecks even land on the exact same Friday. But then, life happens, right? Both of their cars break down in the same week, and they both get hit with a sudden $1,400 repair bill. Now, Jace, he just taps his card, doesn't even flinch, and goes right back to scrolling on his phone. Logan, on the other hand, is having a totally different experience. He reads the estimate 3 times, his stomach totally drops, and he's standing in the parking lot in sheer panic, scrolling through his banking app trying to figure out which bill he can push to next month. Same income, same sudden bill, but one has a quiet mind, and the other is consumed by stress. So the difference definitely isn't their salary.
The real difference is a number neither of them is bragging about at the water cooler. It's their net worth. I want to shift your paradigm completely away from income right now. Think of your finances literally like a bucket. Your income? That's just the water blasting out of the faucet and passing through your hands. Net worth is the water that actually stays inside the bucket after the flow stops. Building wealth is entirely about the bucket's capacity to hold water, not the speed of the water flowing into it. Jace had water in his bucket, Logan didn't. And it turns out this bucket has 3 distinct lines painted on the inside.
Which brings us perfectly to our first major milestone. Level 1, escape velocity.
This is the stage where you finally solve the immediate physiological stress of sudden emergencies. Reaching this level is literally about buying your way out of that daily low-grade panic that plagues so many people. The target for level 1 is $100,000. Now, I know for some of you that number feels impossibly far away, and for others it might feel pretty small, but stay with me here. The late, great Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett's brilliant billionaire business partner, he had this incredibly blunt rule of thumb. He said, the first 100,000 is a bitch, but you gotta do it. He famously advised that you have to do absolutely whatever it takes to get your hands on that first 100K. Why would a billionaire care about a number that's basically a rounding error to him? Because it's the most difficult stretch of the entire financial journey. It's the part where you are doing all the heavy lifting.
And the beautifully mathematical reality of compounding interest is exactly why this matters. Let's say you're saving and investing $10,000 a year at a standard 7% return. Getting from 0 to your first 100 grand? That takes roughly 8 long years. It's a total slog. But watch what happens next. The jump from 100 to 200,000 only takes 5 years. 200 to 300 takes under 4 years. And going from $500,000 to a full million, that takes about 8 years. That's the exact same amount of time it took you to scrape together your first 100 grand. Same effort, wildly different output. Why? Because somewhere in that timeline, your money quietly clocked in for its first day of work and started pushing the snowball down the hill for you.
But the magic of level 1 isn't just about compound math. It's about what it actually does to your brain. Look at the data from this fascinating study done at a New Jersey mall. Researchers asked shoppers to imagine a sudden car repair, exactly like our guys Jace and Logan. Half the group imagined a $150 repair, and the other half imagined a $1,500 repair. Then they made them take a cognitive test. For the wealthier shoppers, there was 0 difference in their scores. But for the lower-income shoppers who had to imagine that massive $1,500 bill, their cognitive function absolutely plummeted. Their scores dropped by a full standard deviation. The researchers actually noted that this drop in brain power is equivalent to losing a full night of sleep. Financial stress actively drains your ability to think clearly.
So escape velocity is an absolute necessity, because living without it is just exhausting. The reality check from the Federal Reserve is pretty stark. Nearly 30% of Americans cannot cover a $500 surprise expense with cash, and 30% couldn't cover 3 months of living expenses. So hitting that first $100,000, it's not about buying a yacht or living large. It is purely about subtracting fear. It buys out that low-grade financial static, so your brain can actually function at full capacity.
Now let's see how this builds into our next stage. Level 2, working money.
This covers the stretch from about $500,000 up to $1 million. And I'll be honest, this is the strangest, most psychologically interesting part of the journey, because this is where your money officially transitions into a highly reliable second income stream. Check out this staggering number, $70,000. If you hit a net worth of $1 million and keep it invested at a standard 7% return, your portfolio is generating roughly $70,000 annually on its own. Just sit with that for a second. Your money is now out-earning the typical American's full-time salary. And your money doesn't call in sick, it doesn't ask for a raise, and it definitely never hates Mondays. This is the level where the phrase work optional actually starts appearing on the horizon.
This level puts you in some seriously rare air. About 21% of U.S. households are millionaires, and climbing into the top 10% requires about $2.4 million. So if you hit $1 million, you are securely in the top fifth of the entire country. At this stage, you have the power to walk away from an unreasonable boss. You stop checking the price of every single item in the grocery store. But here's the big mystery. Why do so many people in this top tier still feel incredibly stressed and, honestly, kind of broke?
The answer is the silent assassin of level 2, the hedonic treadmill. You might know it as lifestyle inflation. This is a psychological trap where your lifestyle and spending just naturally inflate to match every single increase in your income. You get a raise, you buy a nicer car. A year later, well, it's just your car. The thrill is completely gone, but that heavy monthly payment, yeah, that remains. So what do? You upgrade again. High earners get trapped here because every dollar their money generates gets drafted into a bigger mortgage or at least Range Rover. They're literally eating their future to feed their present. So level 2 is really about having the discipline to let the gap between what you make and what you spend stay open.
If you can actually avoid that trap, you graduate to the ultimate destination. Level 3, buying time.
We're talking the $2.5 to $5 million mark here. This is the existential stage where the ultimate financial fear is completely 100% removed from your life. To understand level 3, we use the brilliantly simple math of the 4% rule to calculate what is often famously called FU money. It comes down to a super simple formula. Step 1, calculate your annual spending. Step 2, multiply that number by 25. Step 3, hit that target number, and your investments can essentially fund your life forever, literally. If you want to live a great lifestyle on $80,000 a year without ever working another day, you need exactly $2 million. If you want to live on $100,000 a year, you need $2.5 million. The math is mathematically perfect, and honestly incredibly frank.
But wait, doesn't happiness just flatline once you make a certain amount? Well, not exactly. In Matthew Killingsworth's massive happiness study, the data showed that for the 80% content majority, happiness actually scales perfectly with money. There's literally no ceiling. It only flatlines for the 20% unhappy minority. For those folks, money relieves their immediate suffering up to about $100K, but then it stops working. Why? Because their unhappiness was never a problem money could solve in the first place. You just can't buy your way out of a problem that money didn't cause.
And that brings us to a really crucial realization. The people who reach level 3 and stay miserable, they thought the big number on the screen was the actual destination. The people who reach it and finally feel free realize something else entirely. Level 3 isn't about accumulating luxury items, not at all. It's about reclaiming absolute control over your own time, waking up without an alarm, saying yes to the people you love, and buying back your one, finite, non-renewable resource, the actual, literal hours of your life.
So as we bring this explainer home, let's zoom back out and look at how we measure the bucket.
Remember Jace and Logan from the beginning? Let's revisit them for a second. Jace wasn't making more money on payday. He wasn't naturally luckier than Logan. He was simply further along the bucket's number line. True financial freedom is built through the totally unglamorous automated subtraction of fear over time. Level 1 subtracts the fear of emergencies. Level 2 subtracts the fear of being trapped by an employer. And level 3, that subtracts the ultimate fear of running out of time on someone else's clock.
So, I'm going to leave you with this provocative thought. Which level are you actually climbing toward right now? And don't pick the fantasy one. Pick the next tangible milestone that's actually within your reach. Because 10 years from now, that money is either going to be quietly working for you, or you are going to be desperately working to make up for the lack of it. Find your next line, start filling the bucket, and buy your mind back. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.